Hello everyone, today I'm going to show how I built and painted, not built, but painted this Focke Wulf FW 190 F-8 from Revell in 1/72 scale. For a painting, I used Tamiya's German Grey mixed with Deck Tan to get a nice grayish, middleish tone, I would say. Tamiya paints are known to dry faster than in comparison to Viejo paints, but all I use to thin them down is just regular old tap water. I then follow the painting marking guide from the manual from the kit. Now, as I said before, Tamiya paints are known to dry faster than in comparison to, say, like Viejo paints, because they are more latexy and Tamiya paints are lacquer based. If you're struggling to brush paint Tamiya paints, you may want to add a drop or two of their paint retarder. I use a large, flat brush to help me cover the larger areas of the model, and by doing so, the paint is easily able to cover these parts, and by easily giving me a better chance of not covering up any of the small details. Notice how we build up these thin layered paints on the model just so we can build the full opacity of the paint. Next, for painting the green camouflage, I use field gray to paint the camouflage on top of the model. As you're watching me paint, I take my time and put a little bit of patience on painting this camouflage and really try not to mess up. I love using acrylics because they give me a fast and efficient time in waiting for the paint to dry in the only span of a few minutes rather than waiting hours or days. To keep the paint translucent, I'm building it up in nice thin layers so that it may not almost maybe seem like it was airbrushed. Please let me know in the comments if you are enjoying this Halloween themed spooky music. I almost forgot to mention that I cleaned the model with soapy water before I started painting it. I then used flat yellow to paint the nose of the model. I'm not worried about overlapping any of the other paints with the flat yellow because I can easily go back and retouch them later. And if you're even a little bit curious about what color black I used rubber black just to paint the propellers of the aircraft. For the underside of the model, I brush paint it with light blue and build it up in nice thin layers. As I'm sure you've already seen the model from the thumbnail, I'm planning to have this model be in an abandoned place after a few years, so it will be nicely weathered with rust and dust. Oh, and I also painted the 250 kilogram bomb, which I think it is, with the same gray base color as I did for the plane. To finish up one of the final details of the camouflage scheme for the aircraft, I then brush paint on the little random dots on the light blue camouflage. To seal up the camouflage on the aircraft, I use Viejo's matte medium, which is essentially just clear paint without any pigments, and it's just binder. I thin it down with just water and use it to seal the aircraft. And then now on to the decals, I use microsaw setting solution to help the decals conform to the surfaces and crevices on the model. As you might see later on with the decal, I messed this one up a little bit because I fiddled around with it too much, and you may see what I've done to it later on. After all the decals were placed, I used more matte medium on top of the decals to get rid of the clear film that is obviously present from the decal. Now I can begin to make the adjustable dark wash color to help bring out the panel lines of the model. Just by using only soap and water, I am easily able to retouch the color of this paint later on the model. Now I can apply the dark brown wash onto the model. As you can see, I just slap it on over the flat surfaces, as when in drying time it will find its way into the deep crevices of the details. After letting the wash dry after a few minutes, I can easily go back and retouch it with a moistened cotton bud. And if you only want to keep the details of the model panel lined, I would add more water to the cotton bud so that the details are only highlighted, and so that you can remove any of the amount of excess paint. I also apply the dark brown wash on the underneath sides of the model so that it will have a nice weathered and also shadow effect when seen. And I'm really satisfied with the effect. As you can see, it looks like dirt, and also it fills in the crevices of the model. For reference, I used this Junkers Ju-88 German bomber as for reference to giving me the chipped aluminum effect. And here I just used Vallejo's Model Air Silver and 1 drop of AK's Retarder. I then used the sponge chipping technique to help give me fast and quick chipping areas for the aluminum from the aircraft, as chipping would have occurred over time and over usage. Of course, if this aircraft was still in use, I wouldn't have chipped it as much as I would have been shown right now, and this is still entirely up to you, as weathering and chipping is subjective and you can do it as you like. To give me more color variations on the weathering, I use flat brown and only keep it on the areas of where I think weathering would have built up over time on this aircraft. To easily blend in the color, I just paint on the thinned down flat brown with water, and I just use a wide flat dry brush to then stump the areas in the crevices and the corners of where the weathering is taking place. As I try to add different colors, I then add Vallejo's Panzer Ace's dark rust to the even smaller pockets of where dirt and grime and other areas were built up over time. And here you can see me using life color paints, which is streaking rust, and it is this nice faint yellow rust effect that I hope me build up the redder layers of rust later on. I now use Vallejo's Iraqi sand to get a nice film layer of dust that would have accumulated on the streaks of the wings. I really hope you're enjoying this video so far, as I would appreciate some feedback and any thoughts you have in mind on the weathering of this aircraft model. Please let me know if you liked the video, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more future content of brush painted models by me.